The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
My name is Stevie Richards, and I'm the owner and founder of Stevie Richards Fitness. I started Stevie Richards Fitness with one simple mission statement: to help others. I know what it's like to be injured. I know what it's like to be hurt. I know what it's like to be in pain each and every day of your life. I also know how to modify to overcome that pain, to overcome that discomfort, to overcome your injuries. And that's why I created the programs I did at Stevie Richards Fitness. Every single exercise has a modification. Everything can be successfully completed, no matter your age or fitness level. And that's what I infused in the 12 and 16-week resistance band training programs to pass along to you at an affordable, accessible price. Believe in yourself, because I believe in you, and I'm here to help you every step of the way.
Oh shit! It's Vince Russo!
Vince McMahon's best kept secret.
I am the Antichrist of professional wrestling!
David Arquette won the world title!
I've got a wife, 3 kids at home, and I really don't need this shit.
How can this show be so awful, Mr. McMahon? I didn't think it was.
Viagra on a pole match.
And Hogan, you big bald son of a bitch, kiss my ass!
Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
McMahon, the family, the Rock, they screwed us all!
Now, you're the editor, right?
Mankind did it! Jumpy, beat me! Goldberg speared Russo on the cage!
I'm from New York.
I'll get downright nasty.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very, very special edition of The Brand. You guys know, bro, I don't usually have special editions of The Brand because, let's face it, bro, I'm from the wrestling business, so I try to do as little work as possible and make as much money as I can. So I don't tend to add to the workload. But I got to tell you guys, man, a couple of weeks ago, this documentary came out. First, it was at Sundance. Then it came out on HBO. Documentary was called Leaving Neverland. All about Michael Jackson and the molestation cases that went down at Neverland. Victims, alleged victims. They did an entire documentary. The director was a man by the name of Dan Reed. Incredible 4-hour documentary. I was riveted by. I had my feelings walking away from the documentary. Then I did my show with everybody. If you listen to The Brand, me, Ben, and Stevie, we did our show. And, Ben, I got to first say, I was taken back because your initial response, Ben, you were very, very angry coming off of watching this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, we try not to get too emotional conspiracy horseman wise, but we've been following everything from Pizzagate, Pedogate, and the downfall of Hollywood. And it was just enough's enough after we kind of went through that, and I kind of felt burned. I've had enough. I've talked about this on my platform at hackerhamin.podbean.com. I'm just kind of done with it, and now it's time for action. So if what we pan out to be true in my mind doesn't change, I'm ready to go to the mausoleum and back up the wood chipper and fire the casket right in there and blow them through one more time, just for good fun. You know what I mean?
Stevie, what was your? I know you saw part 1 and 2 separate, and you really didn't want to comment on when you just saw part 1. I know you've seen all 4 hours now. Stevie, what did you walk away with?
Well, the obvious thing was, we talked about it in the locker room and last night on the Horseman, that it did what it was supposed to do. It had a very emotional effect on me. Part 1 did, and then 2 hours before we recorded and streamed the Horseman, I finished watching part 2. So it was all fresh in my mind and still processing all that stuff. I think the general thing that I came away with from a logic standpoint was, nobody appeared to be an innocent party throughout this documentary. And also, they could have done without the 175 drone shots. That was a big heat in me there. You could have got it done in 90 minutes, my wife said. So it's just, it played on that. And as the days, before I even saw RazörFist videos, or we talked about the other side of the coin, I was just like, wow, they didn't even go to bother ask anybody on the pro Michael Jackson side. I started as the emotion started to wear down. I started to say, wait, calm down. You've seen things that are tilted one way or the other. So let's see what's going on here. And the thing that blew me away, and we'll get into it, the thing that blew me away at the end of the Horseman was we started talking about the Sony thing and the speech he gave and how he was dead like very quickly after that. And this was an ongoing thing for years. And that raised the red flag at the end to me. And that's where we're at today right now.
And the VP of Sony, by the way, the former VP of Sony, Corey Rooney, wound up admitting after Michael Jackson's death that while he worked there, they actively sabotaged the Invincible album so that he would become a motivated seller for his ATV music catalog to Sony. So there was a lot of...
Hold on a minute. We're not going to come in here on a debate all cordial and friendly after we try and play that, and you're not going to work your gimmick. You're going to come in hot right now and give that again. I'm not here. I'm not going to have to go and put my headgear on, and then we're going to have to come back in here hot. Now give it to us. Give me the
and
Razor.
Not only that, Razor, I'm setting up for the big intro, bro. and you just blew it, bro. Razor, let me handle the
before his
moderation.
music even hit. He was on the ramp.
Yeah,
nobody's
Razor,
in Gorilla
let me
letting
handle
the
the
people are
moderation.
walking out of the ramp and they do what they want.
Yeah, because Razor, let me tell you something. Once I hand it over to you guys, I'm out, bro. So let me set the scene. Okay. So that's Ben's take. That's Stevie's take. I'm going to tell you my take, bro. My take was twofold. Number one, guys, Stevie, Ben, Jeff, you guys can back this up. Bro, being in the wrestling business for almost 30 years and being a writer and having to deal with talent, bro, part of my job was being a psychologist and a psychiatrist. In other words, bro, I learned quickly when I was being worked. I knew who was working me, why they were working me, what they were looking for, and I also knew who was being sincere and who was being honest. That came 30 years of training with the best workers in the business. So my knee jerk was I saw these two kids, Wade Robson and Jimmy Safechuck. I saw these two kids and I'm like, these kids are not working. These kids, my gut, my impulse, having the experience working with workers and liars, these kids are telling the truth without a shadow of a doubt. That's how I felt. Then I piggybacked that with the Oprah show. When Oprah had a special, after leaving Neverland, and her entire audience were survivors of abuse. And bro, these people, many of them told the same story over about a word they used was grooming, and how these kids were groomed through their parents and how we go from A to B to C. Every story was so similar. So I am going to say, guys, I believe, innocent until proven guilty. Michael Jackson's dead, so we'll never know. But I believe without a shadow of a doubt, these guys are telling the truth. Now, Jeff Lane over here, hook, line, and sinker, drank the RazörFist Kool-Aid, told me he didn't even need to watch the documentary because Razor said this and Razor said that and Razor, so he totally got drunk on the RazörFist Kool-Aid. Am I right, Jeff?
Yes, I'm actually here for 3 reasons today. That's the first one.
Batista's here for 4 reasons too.
Yeah. The first one is beyond impressed with the work that RazörFist put into his series, the research, the fact checking. So that's the first reason. The second reason is obviously I'm a big fan of what Ben and Stevie do, not only on the Brand and the Raw and SmackDown review, but with the Conspiracy Horsemen. So a lot of the times with the Conspiracy Horsemen, they will take a narrative that's put out there by the media, especially like a one-sided narrative, and they will attack it and they will find the holes in it and they'll find the conspiracy there. So I was surprised to hear, that they were actually, on the other side of this one. That surprised me. And thirdly, I've been sick of the hostility, the aggression, and quite frankly, downright bullying I've received from you every time I tell you to watch RazörFist videos.
Very nice. Yeah, because let me tell you why
I got to call time out here, Vince, because this happened on Twitter, and I think it's important that we do it right here live on the show. Jeff, I see the Kevin Owens doll behind you. I'm feeling a lot of early Wade Robson when he testified that Michael didn't touch him, and that you're denying right now. And maybe 10 years from now, your story might change on this.
Yes.
Grab the Kevin Owens doll and show us where Michael touched you.
I did
Show us the
See,
general area, draw a circle.
right here.
See, now
Right
you're just
here.
implying that Kevin Owens possesses the capacity to make someone feel anything.
Very nice. Well, now with that being said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I have not listened to RazörFist's what he's done, the work he's done on this topic. And I'll tell you why, bro, because I know RazörFist, and I know when I walk away from it, I'll probably believe him. And I really don't want to believe him, bro, because I think Michael Jackson's guilty as hell. With all that being said, I'm going to do the final introduction. Ladies and gentlemen of the brand, he's been on our show a couple of times, not as often as I'd like because he's very busy, bro. Bro, this is the world-famous, world-renowned RazörFist. I've called this man a genius on many, many occasions. Everybody knows how I feel about Razor. Razor, since I saved you for last for a reason, bro, because I am going to allow you, my friend, to give the opening statement on this little brouhaha we're having here. So, Razor, take it away in RazörFist form, bro.
Yeah, I mean, invariably, you're talking. Jeff Lane was just talking about the blowback. What's the blowback? Well, you're not siding with the victims. Bullshit. I'm siding with the victims. The difference in this case is the victim's name happens to be Michael Jackson, or more correctly now, his family, who are now beset on all sides by salacious allegations that, thanks to a lack of defamation law, extended to the deceased, basically. If you're dead, you no longer legally can be defamed. They now, of course, are completely unactionable. If they speak up, they can be sued. Yet, not one word of the unsourced, emotionally manipulative, Leni Riefenstahl-esque propaganda piece can be legally acted against because the dead, as far as U.S. law are concerned, are not entitled to defamation protection, which honestly is the takeaway from all this. This is one of the reasons they can get away with saying this. They had their lawsuit, which was thrown out. By the way, while that lawsuit was thrown out, Wade Robson was reprimanded by the judge who said, and I quote, "No reasonable investigator would believe a single word of this," throughout his entire testimony because he contradicted his own timeline. That was back in 2013. Then he filed it again because he found James Safechuck. And that's really ultimately the operative idea behind this documentary. They have to find more evidence. New victims count as more evidence. In other words, new accusers. They already had their day in court. They had their multiple days in court. So now they need other accusers to come forward. And the idea is if other people watch this documentary and they see the money train about to leave the station, they're going to begin to pile aboard. And once they have new victims, they can go straight to court and try for the $1.5 billion lawsuit they were already trying to file against the estate.
Wow, Ben and Stevie. That's a mouthful from RazörFist, bro. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Well, I just want to lead off with the fact that did get me hot throughout the documentary, that, the timing of it, because we're very, very hot about the Corey Feldman thing where he came out and he said he knows people, he's going to name names. And we said on the Horseman, wow, we're going to hear something now. And then his fucking crowdfunding documentary movie that he's going to be producing for months and months and months, while allegedly more child actors or children in general are going to get sexually abused. That's where I started to, as I was wearing off emotionally, I was like, okay, number one, these guys lied for him, but they lied for him as they were getting success. Those were two red flags on both sides for me, on the Michael Jackson side and the alleged victim side. Okay, you guys are getting some level of fame, some level of success that he's supporting, and you're keeping your mouth shut, and then you're doing these things. And of course, yeah, there's no such thing as, like I say, I repeat, as I came down emotionally and put a little more logic into it, and then obviously watched your videos, I'm like, Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like the better late than never thing doesn't really work when you're trying to accuse a pedophile of sexually abusing you. Late is late, and if you really did care about these kids that are supposedly all around the world getting abused, which I will back that this might not make a lot of sense, but I feel like Michael Jackson is guilty to some extent. If he's not guilty in these two cases, or even the third case of, I believe it was the kid with cancer, right? Was that the third?
Gavin
accuser?
Arvizo, yeah.
Okay. It's just behavior with these kids and sleeping in bed and all these other things, the behavior, which we think, Ben and I, and Ben, you can back this up. I believe this is what we came to, that Michael Jackson himself, as a young singer, starting around the age of 5 and 6, was groomed somehow and had behavior, and abuse levied towards him, which is a classic case where it kind of repeats itself.
He was physically abused. He wasn't sexually abused. That's another thing. With the court psychologist in 2003, who, by the way, was independent, wasn't appointed by the defense. He was appointed by the court. Dr. Katz said Michael Jackson doesn't display a single behavior of pedophiles, which is why I find this so interesting. If Michael Jackson was a pedophile, he would actually be one of the most atypical pedophiles in the history of pedophiles. That's what's hilarious about this documentary is it's like, well, no, there's this grooming and there's this and there's that. A lot of it you have to understand is culled from a book by a guy named Victor Gutierrez, who was sued for defamation in 1997 for a book called Michael Jackson Was My Lover, The Diary of Jordy Chandler. And he had said on Diane Diamond's radio show that, there's a videotape of Michael Jackson railing a kid in the shower, and it's 45 minutes long, and she gave all these descriptions of what's in it, even though she said she hadn't seen it. And then he tried to sue both of them. Diane Diamond he couldn't get because she was just an intermediary. Victor Gutierrez he nailed to the wall for $2 million, and he fled to Chile, so he didn't have to pay it. But basically, he couldn't produce the tape, essentially. And
45 minutes, that's like 45 times for me.
Right? So he basically he nails this guy to the wall, but the thing is the narrative lives on because a lot of that stuff has been reproduced. Like some people might have seen the sketches that Jordan Chandler made of Michael Jackson's penis and what have you in 1993. That's actually from Victor Gutierrez's book. The actual picture's never been released. So a lot of this narrative comes from this book, and the book was actually slanderous and defamatory and provably incorrect. And the guy got laughed at court. So you get this kind of narrative, and really it's interesting. You have kind of two periods in the Michael Jackson allegations. You have pre-Victor Gutierrez and post-Victor Gutierrez. Pre-Victor Gutierrez, Jordan E. Chandler said his original allegation was something to the effect of like masturbation and oral sex. It was like vanilla, right? Which presents a problem for Wade Robson and for James Safechuck, because Safechuck took place before Jordan Chandler, and so did Wade Robson. So, and by the end of their stories, you guys remember they were like doing the dirty, right? It was like the Vivid Network. It was straight up the pooper. And the problem, of course, that then stems from that is, so he gets really, really graphic in 1992 or whenever. And then in 93, when he runs into Jordy Chandler, suddenly he's like, oh, you know what? I think I'd like to slow it down here and not. Because basically Jordy Chandler said there was no penetration because if he had said that, a medical examiner would have had to examine him and found out that there wasn't any trauma, essentially. So they made that accusation. And then he just kind of picks up, what is it? They meet again in 93 or whatever. And suddenly it's back to doing the dirty, and it's not about love anymore. And the whole love narrative comes from the Gutierrez book. And the reason it comes from that, and this is one of the most ominous things about Leaving Neverland, is that Leaving Neverland is a pro-pedophilia film. It's not an anti-pedophilia film. It's a pro-pedophilia film because it regurgitates a narrative from this book, and the book was written by a pedophile. Victor Gutierrez was a card-carrying member of NAMBLA. He said he thanked NAMBLA. He even cites a quote from NAMBLA, who said Michael Jackson's a prominent pedophile, and we're very, very happy. And this is one of the reasons Michael Jackson sued. He was aghast that this thing was associating him with this awful organization. And of course, as I said before, he won. So they are regurgitating, in fact, right on down to the wedding ring, idea and the idea of a honeymoon. The first time a honeymoon was associated with Michael Jackson and little kids was in this book, and they regurgitated in the movie. And if you really analyze the narrative of the movie, think about it for a moment, really put your analytical glasses on for a moment. They really don't remonstrate Michael Jackson for the physical act of molestation in this movie. What they really have a problem with is him kicking the kids and the families to the curb afterward. That's when they get really indignant in terms of narrative, which kind of betrays the origins of the movie. It comes from the Gutierrez book, and the Gutierrez book was uncut black tar bullshit.
Ben?
Well, you know, I really enjoy on RazörFist video how he does the work of a journalist that our mainstream journalists aren't doing, whether it's cutting up the promos from the lawyers to back it up for what's in court. But I'm going to cut that part of the argument right here, because what's admissible and proven in court does not go to the fact of what may have really happened. What you can prove in court versus what's a reality are two far different realms of evidence gathering and what happened and he said, she said. And if Wade Robson's testimony was good enough to get Michael Jackson off, pun intended, back in the day, why is it not good? Thank you, Jeff. Why is it not good enough now to be believed? Because sure, it's a boy who cried wolf scenario, but it's more believable after a $25 million and $18 million hush money payout plus 2.5 to each of the parents that he was going to shut the fuck up while he was getting over with NSYNC, Britney Spears at the time, and using off Michael's name while he was still alive to do that. And
Wade Robson never got a payout. That never happened. The payout was actually from Michael Jackson's insurance company over his payout.
His payout is getting to, you know, diddle Britney Spears and get up close with NSYNC. That's why he shut the fuck up, you know. So
I got you.
Until that time that horse is dead, and now you got to switch money, and you have that trump card to play, which is the truth that, yeah, he did. And one thing you kind of glossed over, vanilla molestation. Oh, he just jacked the kid off and cock choked him in the mouth. That's not really anything. It wasn't until he got in the back and really railed him up the ass that now we got a problem with something.
Well, so, no. The problem is it doesn't fit the timeline.
Pell of the Catholic Church yesterday got 6 years, 3 months, and 3 years and 8 months probation for doing that exact vanilla molestation instead of banging a kid out. So,
well, no one's diminishing what that is.
Well, you kind of did. You called it vanilla.
No. I understand, Osama. You know. The only way you're going to see 72 virgins is in a house of mirrors. But the fact is, fucking,
you don't want to go with virgins. That's like
doesn't
in the
fit
Red
their
Sea
timeline. They claim the constant increase and mounting of pedophilic behavior. They're the ones who lay forward the hypothesis that by the beginning of the Safechuck relationship, like it wasn't even sexual, it was like hand holding and maybe a peck on the cheek and the what.
That's conditioning, man.
And all that stuff.
Grooming, whether
but then
it's
by the end,
sight, it fits all the psychological patterns of a predator behavior, even the casting off afterwards of what you've already gotten from that child to switch.
But it breaks the pattern.
But,
it explicitly breaks the pattern. No. Jordan Chandler from 1993 breaks the pattern. And that's the part of the movie that needs to be propped up with rebar, because his molestation does not fit their narrative. In fact,
what's different
Safechuck
about it?
and Wade Robson, contrary to popular opinion, are describing two different predators. One is a Casanova, and the other is like a tender lover kind of a figure. And when you really analyze the two different allegations, it really is describing two in terms of behavior. It's not the same person.
Sometimes I do comedy and sometimes I do hardcore. Sometimes I do political, whatever the situation calls for in the booking. And that's what he's fucking doing as a predator, to get in close until we can put some distance between the families. That's the pattern of behavior. Also, what's he do after getting, that distance? The first thing he does in all three of those cases is Jacko gets wacko in the fucking corner, jacking himself while the kids bend over and spread their ass cheeks apart. And that's three different testimonies at three different times, one under police surveillance, that fits a constant pattern of behavior. And I ask you, what's more believable now that we don't look at it at the 1989 bad tour glasses and we look at it the Kevin Spacey Hollywood glasses? What's more believable? he's really Peter Pan and Willy Wonka who loves kids, or all this shit is a predator system with a guy who's got a lot of fucking money, who at the end of the day, 5 people line up and go,
No. I understand.
Simple.
Your hypothesis is that there's real pedophiles in Hollywood. And oh, hey, by the way, Corey Feldman, who defends Michael Jackson from the allegations, was the one exposing them. But
well, he didn't. He can go in the wood chipper too.
He describes are absolutely diametrically opposed in terms of behavior and organizational structure. And oh, hey, by the way, one of the reasons Corey Feldman can't actually admit what their names are is because of how powerful they are. But the one guy that actually is exposed as a pedophile is the guy with more money than God to pay off the victims. No. It makes perfect sense. When he's going to commit a small drug offense that would get him a fine, maybe a slap on the wrist, possibly some community service, he covers every possible base. We're still learning the extent of Michael Jackson's drug use. All right. To this day, we're still learning about it. But when he's going to sodomize a child, which is a crime that's going to put him away for good and his career's over and everything else, his grand master plan is, let's go to a hotel in an utterly uncontrollable environment, and I'll just go jump up on the bed and I'll fuck you in the butt. That's what we'll do. That's my grand master plan. And oh, hey, by the way, there's witnesses present.
Why would a billionaire go to the suburbs to a $170,000 ranch house to hang out for a weekend and do sleepovers, call a kid for 4 hours who's 10 years old to talk on the phone when you're a 34-year-old man?
He completely incorrect. In fact, if you look at both sides of the case, you realize if anyone was grooming anyone, the families were grooming Michael Jackson in 2005.
Dude, they're marks. They are marks.
No. This is Gavin Arvizo.
If John Cena came to hang out with you, he would be in a different realm, bro.
That's what I was going to say really quick. I think what we all can agree on, no matter what happened, when this was in the early stages, the parents, I can't even think of a word besides negligence. If all this is true, or even if any of this is true and the act didn't happen, the fact that you're letting a grown man, a 34-year-old man, get this close to your kids, spend time in a hotel room, or even if they're saying, hey, Michael's going to spend time in a hotel room and we got to be all the way across on the other side of the hotel because there's no rooms. A billionaire can't say, hey, swap this room for this room. I think if anybody's a heel, like I said, there's no innocent parties apparently to me after seeing this documentary, but the biggest heels, and if you're not a wrestling fan, the biggest bad guys throughout this entire ordeal are every single member of the family outside of the alleged victims, especially the fucking parents.
The problem is it's not just the parents. I'm about to quote Gavin Arvizo, the accuser from 2005. I'm about to quote his testimony from 2005. Tom Mesereau's cross-examining him. That's Michael Jackson's defense attorney. He says, and on those occasions when Mr. Jackson was on the ranch, did you have any contact with him? And Gavin Arvizo goes ahead and responds, those 2 occasions, yeah. But I mean, like, sometimes I would go up to the ranch and he would say that he's not there, and then he would be there. What do you mean by that? Like when I had cancer, I don't know what happened, but Michael kind of stopped talking to me and stuff right in the middle of my cancer. And I would go up there and I would see Prince in Paris playing there. And I would think that Michael was there and they would tell me that Michael wasn't there. And then I would see him somewhere and I don't know. That's his testimony. The family are actually pursuing Michael while he is actively attempting to not contact them. And the reason why, this is before, by the way, they allege that any molestation took place. The Gavin Arvizo case from 2005 is alleged to have taken place after the Martin Bashir documentary. They claim there was no molestation before the Martin Bashir documentary, which is ridiculous because everyone remembers the controversy that kicked up. If you were ever going to molest a kid, the idea that it would be in the immediate wake of that ridiculousness absolutely strains credulity in every conceivable way. But that is the testimony of Gavin Arvizo, the accuser himself, in 2005. And that's a constant problem with the prosecution's case was the accuser would step up for the prosecution and he'd wind up saying something that benefited the defense.
Here's the scam. This one's for Jeff. Do you think, Jeff, that he just didn't find that kid attractive because he had gone through cancer treatments as he did 6 months earlier? That's why he didn't want to talk to him, Jeff?
Hey,
I got no comment on that.
Can I throw something out there, guys? Listen.
That's the name of the episode.
Razor, listen. I got to put on my smart looking glasses. That's the only chance I have. Razor, listen. I cannot go toe to toe with you. I do not have the intelligence of any of you guys, and I know that. I'm a simpleton, but simpleton is good because Razor, a lot of instances like this, let's look at this logically and at the surface. Before we dig, look at it on the surface. Now, Razor, let me propose this to you, okay? Here's Michael Jackson, bro, arguably the biggest celebrity in the world, the king of pop, definitely the biggest entertainer in the world, without question. Okay, bro? You show anybody in the world a picture of Michael Jackson, they know who that guy is. They know who he is before the president of the United States. He has that kind of popularity. Okay, bro. If you're Michael Jackson, bro, are you now, with everybody knowing you and your popularity, bro, ask yourself this question. Are you going to start hanging out with children? Are you going to open up a Neverland ranch where you're just inviting children? Are you going to say, oh, yeah, I have sleepovers with children all the time? That's normal. Bro, when you have this kind of behavior, now what you're doing, bro, is you're creating a huge spotlight on yourself, because now all of a sudden people are saying, wait a minute, bro. This is a 34-year-old man. This ain't normal behavior. Sleep over with kids? Bro, why would Michael Jackson put himself under that type of scrutiny, hanging around with children, sleep over with kids? Now there's a huge spotlight on him. Something's wrong here. Something stinks. Something's not normal. Why would Michael Jackson bring this upon himself unless there was a payoff for Michael Jackson, bro? Why would he do this unless there was a payoff for him, knowing the entire world was going to accuse him of this?
Well, it's a mischaracterization of Neverland to begin with. I mean, if you listen to descriptions, firsthand descriptions, I had a friend who actually went to Neverland when he was a little kid.
Oh boy, Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff.
If you hear descriptions of Neverland, like Kit Culkin, Macaulay Culkin's father, wrote a book years ago and described Neverland. You know, he said something effective. You know, I never saw or heard anything during my days of knowing Michael that would suggest he was a pedophile. And he would say something like, you know, I noted a busload or two, because the way it worked wasn't really like, oh, Michael Jackson's opening the doors and a bunch of kids are coming in and then he's gonna have a pillow party with them. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like that. In fact, he barely lived at Neverland at the time. In fact, by 1998, in his lawsuit with Victor Gutierrez, he had to give a sworn statement, something about, you know, where his place of residence was for some legal technicality. And he said by that point he was living in New York, if he was in America at all, but he was touring the world so much he didn't even live in America for the most part. You know what I mean? But what would happen is, Kit Culkin describes it. He says, you know, a busload or two of kids might arrive at the estate in, you know, on an afternoon and be taken straight to the amusement park or straight to the movie theater. And then just as swiftly, they'd be bussed back off the grounds. You know, he said,
hold on. Sorry. So let me just get one thing in here, because this can go right to WWE. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Their whole thing is this movement to use philanthropy as a way to do marketing. And what you just described to me is nothing more than bringing in a busload of kids to go, who's the weakest one? We'll put a tag on him. When I saw that video of the kid from the Pepsi commercial and they sent him over there and put the posters up in his room and thought the kid could dance, and he's flopping around like, you know, half a seal out of water gimmick. And like, that was nothing more than some spank bank material for Jackson to go, yeah, he's the one.
Yeah.
And those kids might have been the exact same thing.
Oh,
Let's
yeah, sure. And then no employees
what
ever
it is.
spoke.
It's not some Willy Wonka shit of like, everyone's going to have a wonderful time at my palace. It's,
No,
I've got a
that makes perfect sense.
environment
No.
where I
You're
can
using
do
critical
lineups
thinking
and
now,
pick
just
and
like how
pick
you
and
believe, you know, Wade Robson was lying every single time, except when there was $1.5 billion in it for him. Completely. No. You're using real critical
You
thinking
think
now.
I'm trying to
Just
give any credibility
just like
to
when the
Hollywood
employees
scumbag
were totally
parents?
100%. They weren't going to speak up, even though every employee under the Yellow Sun was trying to sell him out to tabloids.
You
for
showed
money
that
and
clip
everything
of
else.
you showed that
None
clip
of
of the
them described
bodyguard.
anything even approaching that. Okay,
You showed that clip
why
of the
would fans
bodyguard. You
do
think
that?
those guys aren't on the payroll still? Like they're like, we never saw Michael do some gay stuff. But he couldn't even inseminate his own wife for his kids.
I'm not even talking about those employees. I'm talking about the employees that did turn on him. The Neverland 5 had the longest civil trial in the history of Santa Barbara County, and not a single one of them described anything even approaching that. Nothing. They would the most they would allege is like an isolated incident of abuse. They claimed, by the way, Macaulay Culkin was molested by Michael Jackson. Then Macaulay Culkin came into the courtroom and said, "Yeah, I was never touched. That's BS." And the nurse was laughed out of the court. And mind you, this is after, if you want to talk about the emotional element, this is after the same maid had her son trotted out into the courtroom to cry on command and claim that he was fucked in the butt. And everyone was absolutely aghast. The courtroom was just dead silent. And then Macaulay Culkin walked in and was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I was never touched."
Well, what happens to the next PWG show when Meltzer gets him on camera and he actually breaks down and says, "Yeah, he did, gag me." Then where are you going to be?
Let me just break this down very quick, if I could, because I think the one question at this point, talking about everything, is this is the conspiracy part of it. Why? Like this is a long fucking angle here. Like, why? Is it Sony? Is this is that the root of the whole deal? Is the $1 billion or whatever it is it just
Is Fall McCartney in on it? Is Fall trying to get his?
Don't get Vince started with that.
Hey, Razor, let me ask you a question. Razor, let me ask you a question.
What's that?
The part, I don't remember whose mother it was, but the testimony of the mother now, not Safe Chuck or Robson. You'll remember which mother it was.
The 93 mother?
The mother who said that Jackson wanted the kid for a year. Which mother was that?
Oh, yeah. It's Safe Chuck's mother, who has her own.
Do you not believe that testimony?
I don't believe it at all. In fact, it explicitly contradicts the historical record, because at the time, Michael Jackson spent most of the year in Australia. He was on the Bad Tour. So it doesn't make any sense. They claim that happened because Safe Chuck was in the late 80s. That was 87, 88.
Returning to the scene of the crime.
87, 88, 89 would have been. Well, that doesn't make any sense, though, because Safe Chuck wasn't met in Australia.
I was thinking of Robson.
Well, Robson was met in Australia. They had a great big tour. In fact, it was probably the tour where he met Robson.
Your kids all look alike. What are you talking about?
You banged one, you banged them all in Australia. I mean,
I see how it is. See, this is the problem. I think Hamin's got a harem.
Oh, come on. It gets lonely in the desert, bro.
Australia's got a really bad reputation. This Robson kid and these Iconics saying they've been working for 14 years. It's very shady.
You can't trust an Australian 5-year-old. You just can't.
Look, it comes right down to, in terms of the immediate goal, the plan is to pressure the estate to settle the lawsuit. Or failing that, they figure if they get enough visibility in the documentary, like I said, others will smell the money train. They might come forward, which allows them to appeal. And that counts as new evidence, of course. And by the way, you can quote me on it. If more people come forward, nobody has, strangely enough. But if more people come forward, they will absolutely file a new appeal. You can cut, print, quote it, whatever. Mm-hmm. But the more I think about it, the more firmly I believe. You heard about that Robson Family Fund that he set up? He set up like a charity for victims or whatever. The more I realize, I think he set that up deliberately, because if the new victims are going to come forward, where are they going to go? They're going to go to him. He's got the lawyers, right? So automatically he gets a payday attached to whoever decides to come forward hereafter. You know what I mean? And by the way, the minimum donation amount on his website is $250. So where that money goes, anyone's got to have.
Well, I feel like that's got to draw you to our side, because workers are going to work. Like we said, nobody's innocent in this, and I really like how you hold the media's feet to the fire. And if you'd indulge me for just a minute, and not that I, claim Vanity Fair is any fucking end all be all of media, but I'd like to get your take on a couple of these, because they published something called 10 Undeniable Facts about the Michael Jackson sex scandal. And there's some of them are like, whatever, but here's a couple that, stuck out to me. And the first one is the $25 million and $18 million and then $2.5 million payouts of hush money. And, you make the point in your videos, of course, this guy's worth $1.8 billion at his peak, but the payout for whatever that comes out to, $49 million. Roughly,
the latter two payouts are hold on. I think only 2 of those are real. The other ones are false.
But a guilty man who can afford the lawyers wouldn't. To me, I get it. Shut the fuck up versus the empire. Small payouts, da-da-da. But once you have those people on your payroll, those leeches are going to come back until you put a bullet in their head, mob style, so.
But here's what you have to understand. We learned this last week when Scott Ross came forward and started doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Not only did insurance pay out the 1993 accuser, according to Scott Ross, who, by the way, is an investigator in the 93 case and the 2005 case, they paid out against Michael's wishes over the repeated protests of the defense. And here's the thing. Michael was intending to fight the charges in criminal court. So he wanted to defer any potential payout settlement until after and see if he could actually avoid paying entirely by
where does that come from? Where does that knowledge come from that you're giving us right now?
What from Scott Ross, the investigator?
Okay. All right. I'm just
right.
asking.
So California law allows a civil trial to go out ahead of a criminal one, which is ridiculous. I don't know why they allow this. I think it's actually been overturned since. But you can actually level a civil complaint ahead of a criminal one in California. And that's what happened in Michael Jackson's case. They filed a civil trial for negligence ahead of the criminal investigation, which was ongoing, right? So Michael Jackson settled the civil case because his lawyers were afraid, rightly so, that two things would happen. Number one, just by having the trial at all, even if he's exonerated, it's going to poison the jury pool. They're going to be like, why did he have this case? It's going to make it bad. Number two, it's going to give away the defense's case. All their witnesses and everything, all their evidence is going to be out there in the public. And so that's going to foul up the works and everything. So the insurance company, meanwhile, is sitting back, and California has really strict laws on payouts for people who allege abuse. If the insurance company had not paid this out, they could have been subject to all kinds of. Basically, the insurance company covered their ass. And they were like, look, you've got a multi-billion-dollar insurance policy. It was record-setting. It was in the news and whatever. So they're like, this is a drop in the bucket. We're just going to pay this out. And Michael's like, no, I'm going to fight the criminal charges. By the way, it was ultimately overturned by 2 grand juries. They not only were overturned, they didn't even indict. They tried it twice before 2 grand juries, the criminal
But
case.
see, again, that leads me back to my question, bro. And my question is this, bro. Okay, bro, you're saying Neverland wasn't set up that way. The kids are coming in on busloads. They're going to Walt Disney World, okay? All right, bro, but it led to pajama parties. We all know that. It led to sleeping with kids in his own bed. So when you talk about lawsuits coming your way, bro, Michael Jackson has to know, okay, bro, the minute this turns into sleepovers and kids sleeping in my room, in my bed, bro, lawsuits are going to come. Somebody's going to say, I'm molesting these
30
kids.
days straight. 30 days straight admitted had the kid in his bed.
Yeah, okay, but here's my point, right? He knows this. Lawsuits are going to be, I'm sleeping with freaking kids, bro. I'm having sleepovers. Bro, why is he going to put himself in that position unless there's a payoff for him? And that was the payoff, bro. Because if there was no payoff for him, why on God's name would he put himself in that situation?
After the allegations, he didn't. In fact, in 2005, when they went into court.
Because he got caught.
Good for him. He didn't do it.
No. After the 19... We're talking all the way back in 1993.
I want to hear Vince say what the payoff is.
The payoff is he's molesting the kids.
Okay, excellent. Yeah,
that's the payoff, bro. Listen, Razor, you're a logical guy. When you are worth $1 billion and the world loves you, bro, you could do no wrong. Bro, you are not going to put yourself in this type of situation unless there is some kind of a payoff. Otherwise, you're a blithering imbecile, bro.
And all the available evidence suggests he not only did not actively seek that to happen, he was reticent. In Frank Cassio's book, Frank Cassio was Michael Jackson's personal assistant, who was present, by the way, when Gavin Arvizo had made his claims about being in bed with Michael Jackson and so forth. Not only did the accuser back up on the witness stand and say, okay, actually, I never slept in the same bed as Michael Jackson. He gave me his bed because my mother and I insisted on staying at Neverland. Michael Jackson stayed elsewhere in his 2-story bedroom, which is actually a guest house.
Isn't that fucked unto itself? And how about safe, Chuck?
No. This is very, very common.
To me, that's a safe room of like, hush, hush. We have another barrier between us to get away in something.
No, you see this in people who have mansions all the time, whether it's Axl Rose or Mick Mars or
throw him under
whatever.
the bus too. I'm sure Axl Rose been banging girls up the ass, 14 years old. That didn't want it either.
Razor, why was it a maze to get to every room in Neverland? Why did you have to go through a maze to get? Was that part of the? Part of the fun?
It was a totally. Have you seen pictures of Neverland? It was a totally normal house. It was like just a normal rich guy house. There was nothing odd about it. I mean, inside, the thing is that
we saw the bedroom was get up to a room. You had to go right and left, and then a quick right, and then you had to make a U-turn. We saw it.
You got two-way mirrors. You got two-way mirrors in the movie theater where you can see out. They can't see.
Yeah, I mean, what is that, bro?
Oh, that's bullshit. That's what that is. You can actually see that that's bullshit. In fact, on the Oprah interview from 1993, where she interviews him in the theater, and you can actually see the windows. They're not fucking two-way. You can see inside.
Depending on which lighting is in there at the time.
No, it's just a normal window. In fact, Taj Jackson, his nephew, confirmed it on Twitter.
Ben, Stevie, Jeff, I'm going to ask him the serious question.
All right.
Yeah, I've got to. Razor, have you ever visited Neverland as a child, bro?
No, my friend did, though.
All right. Okay.
And then he showed you he showed you what happened to him, and then the abuse was passed on.
Razor, let me ask you this. Why are you so passionate about his innocence? Why? I mean, bro, Razor, can you honestly sit there and tell me there is not a shred of doubt in your mind?
None. Zero.
Wow.
None.
I
mean, because the available evidence,
if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
Leads me where it is. Early 30s.
Early 30s. Because I thought, man, if Vince had you during the steroid trial, he could probably start that operation up again.
And that goes to our whole commentary. Stevie and I, we try not to react emotionally.
In the lawsuit too.
You do a great job of doing the court testimony side. To me, that's only 10-20% of the story, especially when you want to put onus on
the evidence is 10%.
It is, because what you have to gather for evidence and what you can present is a very small amount once it comes to the court. Look at what gets withheld. To make an argument, a convincing argument, is different than what you can prove is different than what happened.
Well, here's a fact that should get any able-bodied conspiracy nut, and Ben Hamin's noggin jogging. Catherine Jackson sues AEG, the company that organized the This Is It concert, for wrongful death in 2012. The CEO for AEG, he lets fly this fiery invective in the press. The Michael Jackson legacy will soon be dirt, and so on. Immediately thereafter, Wade Robson and James Safechuck emerge from the woodwork, and they sue the estate. Their acting price, by the way, you guessed it, $1.5 billion. There's a coinky of a doggone dink, you know what I mean? Like, what?
Hollywood scumbags are going to work. They're going to go for the big money that's there. Everybody knows, shit, he's dead. There's $1.5 million up for grabs.
Did you not hear? Actually, I may not have said it. Catherine Jackson's lawsuit against AEG was $1.5 billion.
Huh?
It matches exactly. That doesn't strike you as odd?
No, that's just people knowing that there's money up for grabs and they're going to go to it, and they're all shitbags, especially if your last name is Jackson. This one's for Jeff real quick. Jeff, out of all of the pedophile grooming names, which one was your favorite? Applehead, Little One, or what was the other one? Applehead, Little One, or Rubber? The other one, I think. Rubber. Excuse me. Don't put the hard R on the end of it.
Which is fiction from Diane Diamond's
Jeff, I'm going to
show.
call you one of those from now on. Which one?
Bro, we saw the Little One. We heard the phone call,
Applehead.
We heard Little One and Applehead. We heard it on the documentary.
Yeah, I was replying to Rubber. And number two, he actually called his niece Little One. He called Todd. They all posted notes from that. It was just what he did.
Vince, I could take it.
It was just how he spoke to them. This is a giant kid.
That's also a absolute truth in the grooming of pedophile conditioning for their victims as well. Disassociating and creating an own subworld where you're in love, and that's what a small child wants, is acceptance from their parents and to say good job, and you're hitting them at the right time. And
so he pulls in the parents.
14, it's going to be a different dichotomy because he knows that he's hitting his puberty sexual peak, and he can take the kid gloves off. And let me try and bang you in the ass real quick one time before we go out.
Well, that's a lovely fiction novel you've just penned. Now prove it. Because they didn't in the confines of a 4-hour documentary.
Obviously, the
really
testimony in court was enough.
They save every goddamn post-it note. They save every fucking phone message. They save every fucking innocuous message he sends the family, including, "Hey guys, I just went to the fucking store to pick up fucking shoes." And then the one time they don't decide to record the phone call is the hundreds of times they allege he's talking about Railman in the butt. That's interesting. That's really fucking interesting.
Well, they can cherry pick, but it's still there.
Wedding vows are saved, except for, "Hey, go pick up milk, Applehead. Hey, how's it going? I just finished recording a music video."
What's your favorite part of Hawaii? "Oh, it was spending time with you."
It's really good. No, absolutely. Look, if you believe that a man held on to a molester's wedding ring until age 40 and it still fits him at 41 and yet he conveniently forgot the wedding vows, you believe Paris Hilton has never tasted cranberry juice. That is bullshit, my friend. Bullshit.
The recordings are there. If you're big on proof and you're willing to show the lawyers who are against him testimony, but you won't put that out there as an actual valid thing, I don't know, man. I got a question. You cherry picking your evidence to make your argument.
I'm the only one presenting evidence. I can't even.
I'm with you, man. I told you we're on the emotional side. The court side to me is 20%. What you have to prove in court does not make the argument of human nature and the patterns of predator behavior, not in any means.
But it's simply evidence. I mean,
that's fine. What you present in court and evidence and what's in the fucking back in boxes could be 80-20 to make your argument. And you do a great job in your videos putting that shit out there that no other news media is gonna. When you're talking about workers who work in audience through our fucking eyes, and you look at promos, and I can fucking call an NXT promo from a mile away, and I look at these guys spaced out, I would know through my bullshit meter when I'm fucking getting worked by anybody.
You should be able to definitely smell the signs of getting worked from an emotionally manipulative documentary.
And where the money is. I totally get he's in it for the money. I told you.
By the way,
Quick analogy, guys.
Oprah screens the documentary at her birthday party on David Geffen's yacht, who, by the way, is connected to Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, they were probably drinking adrenochrome and fucking 12-year-olds too. I don't doubt it.
Harvey Weinstein had a documentary that actually debuted at Sundance and was scheduled months in advance. Harvey sends out a text. This is public knowledge, by the way. This was reported in the press. Harvey Weinstein sent out a text to just anybody he knew in the industry. This is like 5-6 months ago, saying, "Help me." That's all it said. Just help me. And suddenly, this documentary, Leaving Neverland, there's extremely strict criteria to actually be entered into Sundance. You actually have to approve. There's a screening process, whatever. They rushed this fucking thing. It was like a week they waited to push this thing out. It was not teased very long ahead of time. This Weinstein documentary had been scheduled for months, and suddenly no one's talking about it. I mean, do you even know the title of the Weinstein documentary? I don't. I haven't heard one word about it, one mumbling word. And it's funny that Oprah is best buds with Harvey Weinstein. And now all we can talk about, thanks to her special and this documentary, is Michael Jackson, who, even if he had done this, would still be dead.
That still does bad biz for Weinstein.
You know what I mean? Like, it's awfully convenient.
That does bad biz for Weinstein still, because now everyone's like, all right, he fucked these actresses over, and now you're talking about kids. Dude, all that's going to do with R. Kelly, the same thing. They're going to put the heat that everyone's pissed off about on Michael Jackson on R. Kelly. He's going to get fucking thumped for all his shit, because they're going to look for who's still alive to scapegoat it.
Here's what I know. Never mind courtroom evidence, all right? James Safechuck claims in the film that he was molested by Michael Jackson after a performance at the 1989 Grammy Awards in New York City.
We all were.
The Grammy Awards took place in Los Angeles that year, and Michael Jackson didn't perform. Okay? He claims that Wade Robson claims that he was molested every single time he was alone with Michael Jackson. There are producers who were in the room for the dangerous recordings who were there with Wade Robson and can confirm there were 2 rooms in the studio. There's no way he could have been molested. Again, Wade Robson is the one who himself claims he was molested every single time they were alone. The problem is other people were there. All right? It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. The timeline doesn't match. Okay? It doesn't make sense that James Safechuck's mother could say in 2009 she danced on Michael Jackson's grave because he died and he would never molest another child the way he molested my child, even though her son didn't come out and say he was abused till 2013. It doesn't make sense. And you don't have to get into courtroom documents to know that Wednesday comes after Monday.
You know, with the nickname thing, that all you can do there is just take a name that somebody was called and spin your narrative. Vince, I could accuse you of molesting me, and I could play a voicemail where you call me Lumpy. Hey, Lumpy, give me a call. And
conditioning you right now.
Yeah, and I could say that was his nickname for me, was Lumpy. They can manipulate that. What I want you guys to get into real quick, and I'm sure you were going to anyway, was if you guys didn't watch past the credits of part 3 of RazörFist video, they have now removed stuff from the documentary that the Jackson family came out and proved were complete lies.
Yeah.
Mandela
there were
effect.
timeline things like there's that whole segment. God, it was a good 5-6 minutes long where they claimed, Wade Robson claimed he wasn't going to testify in Michael Jackson's defense in 2005. And then he attended a dinner with him and his family, and they sat down, and Michael suddenly broke out the box wine and had little red Solo cups, and he was pouring the wine into the Solo cups, which I think is the most offensive part of the allegation to me. That
Was
he
that
would
the
use
Jesus juice, or was that somebody was that the Jesus juice one, or was that the other kid?
No, he claims, Wade Robson claims that Michael,
the other kid was Jesus juice.
Yeah, Arvizo claimed that.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was thrown out of court, by the way. That was never true. So he was pouring the wine in, and then Michael Jackson allegedly disappears and abandons his kids. And his kids are all by their lonesome. And Wade's like, you want to go get your dad? Is your dad okay? And he's like, in that moment, I realized Michael Jackson might not survive this. You know, I looked at his kids and I said, what if this is the last time they see their daddy? And it was in that moment that I endeavored to slay the dragon and testify in his defense for hours and hours and hours on end. And the problem, of course, with that is that Taj Jackson rightly pointed out that dinner took place after the trial was over. And how did Dan Reed respond to that criticism? He completely ignored it, and then he just cut it out of the film.
Was Taj Jackson at that dinner? Was Taj Jackson there to know that?
He was. The whole thing. Okay. He mentioned the family just in passing. Oh, the family was at this dinner. And then I guess neglecting to mention that Taj was one of them, because he's been discrediting Taj the whole time, because Taj is one of the few family members who's actually taken point for his uncle. That some of the brothers have, but it's mostly Taj. And they just cut it out of the film. In fact, the UK version of the movie that showed on Channel 4 or whatever it was is 40 minutes shorter. It's like 3 hours and 15 minutes. It went from 4 hours.
But is that them cutting it to show it in one, or is that because of taking elements out that are libelous?
No, they're both. Here's the interesting thing. BBC or Channel 4 doesn't have commercials, so they weren't cutting it for time for commercials, and they showed it in 2 episodes. If you check their website, it's in 2 episodes. It's just shorter. They just cut those parts out. They cut out the part where he talked about the dinner, obviously. They cut out the part where he had a mock interview with Michael Jackson. They cut out a huge part of that because the court transcripts emerged, and the full statement was not, oh, the best thing about being in Hawaii is being with James Safechuck. There's bullshit. The full sentence, they cut it off mid-sentence. He said, was being with James Safechuck and Jimmy's family, and I can't wait to see more of them. That was his full statement. They cut out the entire ending half of that. And So once that was pointed out, they simply off with its head. It's out of the movie.
Have they released that full audio to show that it is a bullshit?
The audio's never been released except in the film, but it's in the deposition from 2016, which is publicly available.
Well, that's what I would hope that they would. I know they don't have any kind of. They kind of have a need to probably talk about the Jackson family and anybody on his side to make a counter documentary to this one, because there seems to be, from your videos, that this could be 4, 5, 6 hours of facts on the other side, if not more, just destroy it. Is there a plan to do that, or is there any kind of rumor that might actually happen?
Taj Jackson is currently fundraising for one because he's not a wealthy man, and contrary to popular belief, Dan Reed keeps saying in interviews. He keeps making the rounds in media saying, the Jacksons, why would I interview them? Because they have a financial interest in Michael Jackson, as if the accusers don't at $1.5 billion in lawsuit. But said, they have a financial interest. Actually not true. Only Catherine Jackson, his mother, and his children get any money. Nobody else named Jackson is even remotely involved in the estate. And Catherine Jackson and Paris and Prince and all them, they just get a payout. They don't have any say in the company. They were just assured a payday. Everyone else in the family is not involved in the Jackson estate. It's run by 2 white guys, 2 lawyers. So, that's, at the end of the day, they have really no incentive at all for the most part. So Taj has to fundraise this for himself. He was in a pop group years ago, but he's by no means a wealthy man.
Well, there's also been the interview. I think it just came out the other day. So you tweeted it out, Razor, with Michael's niece that dated
Brandy Jackson. She dated Wade Robson for 7 years. And I have to say, the 2 accusers can't be just in this by themselves. The parents clearly are complicit in this scam. Not only were emails leaked, which Wade Robson tried to conceal from the 2016 legal proceeding, he was initially confronted by the estate's legal team. Hey, can you show us emails of you talking through this with your mother? He tried to delete his emails, whatever. They actually had to go directly to the internet provider and get the emails. He tried to hide them. And it was literally him going back and forth, him and his mom admitting things are BS, and then they wind up materializing in the documentary. They're basically talking through their story, trying to figure out what's going on there. But basically they had to create a timeline where Brandy Jackson didn't exist because she dated Wade Robson for 7 years. His mom came out afterward and said, they were just childhood sweethearts. But that directly conflicts with their own timeline because she claims that Michael Jackson cut off contact at that point. Basically, he did the math or something, and he was like, they would have had to meet when they were 12 or something like that. I forget exactly what age it was, but it was like he was basically the idea was, she couldn't really have dated him because it was just childhood love. But at the same time, they're saying, they met when they were 12. Well, which is it? Is it puppy love when they were tots? Or were they 12 plus and in their teens when they were actually dating? It's directly contradictory and the fact that the mother said that kind of suggests that she's looking for a bit of a payday herself, personally.
The parents, even if it is an anti-Michael Jackson and pro-victim documentary, the parents, like I said before, are far from innocent, and these are not good parents. Especially if all this stuff is true. Right. They are even worse parents than scamming people and wanting to get money and being greedy is one thing, but giving your kids up to a pedophile, to an alleged pedophile, and knowing that the behavior is strange. According to the story, I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened, but I'm saying, according to the story, you should be brought up on charges, because if it was my kid and I thought this guy was touching him, I'd fucking kill him.
And they surrender that a bit, which is kind of a propaganda technique. They kind of tell you what you want to hear, and then when they get to the BS, you're not going to frisk it and really check it as much. That's a technique they employ in the film quite a bit. It's like, he was a genius, he was incredibly generous, and he touched little kids. You know what I mean? It even follows the two truths, one lie kind of pattern of classic Goebbels propaganda that that was laid out in his many articles about Nazi propaganda back in the day. But I mean, really, they constantly are doing that. They'll say two things that are true, and then they'll hit you with the bullshit.
Yeah. Well, Ben, listen, let's wrap this up, bro. Ben, can you give us let's go down the line. Let's get a closing statement. Ben, you go first. Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I appreciate you going handicap match 2 3-on-1 or 2-on-3 here with my little one over there, Jeff. I appreciate that, buddy. But when it comes down to it, I feel like I made my statement of what you have to prove in court versus the pattern of behavior of known child molesters, especially a guy who, if he puts over that he had his childhood taken from him, is in a strange place, and people whose testimony at one time was good enough to get him out of all these allegations, but is now suspect. I don't believe anybody's innocent in it. I would have loved to see the mother, after their atonement at the end of the documentary, go, where she said, "I fucked up," and then raise a 357 to the side of her head. I really would have enjoyed that part if they would have put that in there. But, at the end of the day, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it is. And the way this guy has self-mutilated himself, has an ego across the world. And I'm not just talking about these 5 possible accusers. I believe he's had kids snatched off the streets of Abu Dubai when he's there. Doesn't matter, wherever it is, dude. Like when money gets to this level and you feel like you can do no wrong and have a kid sleep in your bed, like you said, for 30 days, and what's the payoff? And a guy that smart who's a worker thinks he's untouchable. From my angle, there's just a court and that aside of what they can prove. The proof of the pattern of behavior is there, whether it's his testimony, Wade Robson, true or not, of let's have drills to get our clothes on quickly. Let's have bells and whistles to get, alert systems, to have these secret kayfabe rooms, and never doing it in one room. The danger aspect of it, because he's bad. They want to get caught at the end of the day. To me, this has all of the earmarks of predator behavior, with a guy who has the money to do it in a closed environment that appeals directly to what he is fucked up and mentally challenged on, what was taken from him. I believe all that childhood and sexuality is intertwined, and all this is a playground for him to be able to commit these crimes. But as an adult, he's smart enough to know which ones to do it on and how he can cover it up and how he can move on to the next victim, and like a shell game, keep them separate while he fulfills whatever sexual strange desire that was done to him by Sammy Davis Jr., James Brown, whoever back in the day. And that's really what it is. There's no denying the strangeness of it. And if you're going down that path, at the end of the day, it's not some Willy Wonka, make kids happy, save the world shit. Sure, he did a lot, donated a lot of money, but there's some sexual dysfunction there at the end of the day. And that's really what I feel about it. There's plenty of great testimony otherwise to besmirch his accusers as money grubbers or trying to pull a fast one and hoax, and they got paid off. And once you pay off one person and that info gets out there, well, here comes every indie worker with their fucking story to get over, just like Khan and AEW at this point, right? So that's pretty much where I'm at with it, man. And I appreciate RazörFist and all the work he does as a journalist for his own channel is super impressive in a day and age where people just go off the cuff and don't give a fuck and call themselves researchers.
Yeah. Stevie.
Well, thank you, Applehead. I appreciate it.
Love you too, bro.
It's a tough thing for me because it's been a roller coaster of emotion and logic, and the RazörFist videos, if you haven't seen them, once again, like Ben said, they're incredible. You need to see both sides of everything. You need to hear both sides of everything. You need to make your own decision, whether it's evidence-based or, like Ben said, pattern-based, or a mixture of the both of those. I'm somewhere like it's tough because what this case does and what this entire decades-long, kind of like just situation, it makes it tough moving forward because there are no innocent parties. Like I said, in my opinion, I know that the victims, the alleged victims, and the parents and everybody surrounding that really make it hard to believe victims. This is the Corey Feldman thing where you just basically say, hey, fuck you. And then every kid that moves along after that and accuses anybody of anything may get, really just kind of like, critically looked at and run through the ringer, run through the gambit of all the stuff when they could be completely innocent, but you're going off of what these two guys did and the actions of the parents and all the holes in the story that RazörFist puts out in his videos and everything. So it's really tough. It's a mixture between emotion and logic right now for me. I sort of wish I had more time before the Horsemen to watch both parts and process it a little bit more. So I made it more of an emotional reaction to that stuff. And it's a real thing that happens throughout life. Hollywood has obviously gives the credibility to the alleged victims too, because it happens more times than not. It happens in politics. It happens just not in those high realms, but you're talking about every day, no matter what walk of life, no matter what race, creed, income, whatever. But I think the thing we can all agree on is that the documentary was much easier to watch than Raw and SmackDown.
And much better attended.
More drone shots. They had a bigger production. They had more pyro.
And 5 less kids got molested than at Raw and SmackDown. They were diddling them big time.
The tarp.
Hey, a Lumpy over there. Lumpy, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. Well, first I want to recommend everybody to watch both sides of the story. You can make up your own mind. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that is in Razor's videos on his YouTube, The Rageaholic, that was not brought up today, obviously because of time. So I encourage everybody to go to his channel and watch that stuff. There's a few things, for me, besides the evidence that from Razor's video, is you think back to when the FBI raided him and they couldn't find one thing. That's kind of hard to believe for me. And the other thing,
California law, sorry to interrupt, but they changed California law to get this guy and couldn't even get him on a misdemeanor.
Dude, you think somebody wouldn't tip people at the house to hide any shit days beforehand they're coming for you?
Well, that makes the story even worse because they found non-pornographic magazines that other people have tried to suggest are pedophilic because there's pictures of naked boys in them. And apparently one of the authors or something, this is a book from the 60s, one of the authors or something was nailed for pedophilia, and it's been found in the homes of pedophiles and everything and whatever. But his fingerprints weren't found on it. It was in like a cabinet filled with books, most of which were innocuous, right? And so that's
because he jerks off with the glove on. He's got the glove on when he's doing it, and that's why they can't fucking get any fingerprints on.
Really quickly, could I just justify my $600 Rodecaster Pro purchase?
Please.
Is that okay?
Go ahead, Jeff. Finish up, Jeff.
Yeah, and the other thing is you guys talk about, recognizing shady people. I think I have a good radar for that as well, not just because of wrestling, but people that I've met throughout all my entire life, jobs. I've met a lot of shady people, and I think I have a good radar for that. And this director guy, and I can't stop seeing balls after RazörFist called him a dehydrated scrotum. But there hasn't been this guy is shady. You can just tell by listening to him, looking at his face, his reactions. That guy is shady, and that's bothered me since I've seen his interviews. So
yeah.
Well, he opened up. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to let Razor wrap this up. I want to come clean, and I want to admit, I tend to have taken the side of Ben and Stevie because a couple of years ago, I was promised a series by Razor Ramon where he was going to debunk all the mistruths about Vince Russo, and he teased me. He teased me.
Vince, I want you to debunk all the truths.
Yeah,
fuck you, man.
About Vince Russo, he did
was
too.
This part of car chase?
He did too that people popped over and still talk about today. And then he left me high and dry to go do who knows what. I don't know what was more important than debunking the mistruths about Vince Russo. So this was my payback on you, bro, to side with Ben and Stevie because you dropped me like a bad habit.
Okay, now you're doing the same thing on your podcast there with Jabba the Hick, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Oh, never mind. Jeff, edit that part out. Go ahead, Razor. I'm gonna let you wrap this up, my friend.
That got me, dude. That got me.
Jeff,
never
edit that.
Never mind the court documents and testimony. Trust the gods of time, okay? Wade Robson claims Michael Jackson gave him the Thriller jacket, even though it was given to the costume designer Dennis Tompkins and auctioned off for $1.8 million to some random rich dude from Austin.
Big deal. If you got 15 Thriller jackets and it worked once to molest a kid by giving him a Thriller jacket, you're going to go buy 15 more.
Okay, but that doesn't explain why Harrison Ford would lie for him when he gave James Safechuck, the one and only, by the way. There's only one, believe it or not, Indiana Jones bullwhip, which was actually
saying that Harrison Ford isn't doing a little bit of this behind the fucking scenes too.
Well, he's busy dating that broom. What's her name?
Yeah,
Callista
the
Flockhart.
lawyer, whatever. Ally McBeal. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways,
yeah, she looks like a 10-year-old boy. Why? Of course, you're going to switch over to that too.
Are you kidding me? A young Wade Robson, Wade Robson had a much larger rack than Callista Flockhart. But no. Where he's claiming that Harrison Ford gave him the bullwhip when it was actually donated to the Institute of Archaeology in London in 1990, or Safechuck claiming that he honeymooned with Michael at Euro Disney in 1988, even though Euro Disney wasn't built until 1992. Okay, or claiming that he spent Thanksgiving 87 with Michael Jackson, that they actually invited him over. Wade Robson invited Michael Jackson over to celebrate Thanksgiving with the Robsons in 1987, even though he was on the Bad Tour and he was in South America, and it makes no sense. And of course, this is the most assiduously cataloged travel history in the history of pop stars. Why would you make up a lie like this? But apparently they didn't have time to compare notes. I have no idea. Trust the gods of time, ladies and gentlemen. You can't decide to testify in a trial at a dinner that takes place after the trial. All right? It just doesn't make sense. The insurance company paid out in 1993. The criminal trial went forward. It was thrown out by two separate grand juries. This is not an OJ situation. OJ did not have his case dismissed for indictment twice a full decade before his case went forward, entirely because of media propaganda from Martin Bashir, which, by the way, after Michael Jackson's death, Martin Bashir admitted that entire segment on the bed with the kid. He demanded Michael Jackson get on the bed and hold the kid's hand. He had to convince him. He didn't want to. And then in 2005, when he actually took the stand, the kid actually said he never shared a bed with Michael Jackson. So would I allow my kid to stay with Michael Jackson? No. But neither would Michael Jackson, because he didn't want to share a bed with kids. He said stupid shit in interviews because he's socially awkward, because that's what Michael Jackson was in life then as now. Man was not guilty on 14 counts. In fact, in the new documentary, if a single allegation had been true, even one, he would have been guilty of at least one of the count, the 4 separate counts of child endangerment. They couldn't get him on a single misdemeanor. And the case was over in 4 months. It was scheduled for 5. Not just not guilty in record time, bitch.
Wow.
End of.
Wow. All right. Well, listen. Hey, Razor, listen, are you going to come back to talk about John Wick 3, bro?
I'd be happy to. Okay. I haven't seen 1 and 2.
Okay, guys, listen, bro, listen, incredible. I mean, you guys, you just saw 3 incredible minds in Jeff Lane. And I got to be honest with you. I mean, guys, incredible. Hey, listen, you guys, you get this every week from these guys, every single week. Ben, we're going to get this video out everywhere. Stevie, we're going to get this video out everywhere, bro. Tell people where they can get this from you guys every single week, bro.
Well, you can find my podcast platform at Hacker Hamin. That's Hacker, HACKER.podbean.com. Best in wrestling, best in conspiracy theory, news updates, and now politics. And new shows coming every week as we expand the platform. And also on my YouTube, youtube.com/Ben Hamin for the best in wrestling and conspiracy. And also here at russosbrand.com. So happy to be able to put this synergy forward and have open, real debates. That this is where real thought comes from. And we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to both sides objectively. Watch for yourself. And, please hit me up at Ben_Hamin and let me know what you thought. If you want to see me slap people across the face for $5, it's at Hacker Hamin on Instagram. But again, appreciate Razor Fist walking into, a handicap match tonight. But he was loaded for bear, so I'm not too worried about it.
And Razor, let me tell you something about Stevie Richards. Stevie Richards is not trying to lure in children with his resistance bands like somebody else we know. Stevie Richards is changing the world, bro. Tell them about it, Stevie.
Listen, let's not start any stories about Michael Jackson luring kids with resistance bands.
I know. You don't want that with the guy who spent most of his career in a half shirt and booty shorts.
If he lured the kids with a resistance band workout program, then yeah, there's holes in that. He's the worst pedophile ever.
Michael Jackson actually was starting his own clique called the Blue Ya World Order. It was a little different.
Jeez. So anyway, thank you once again for passing it on to me, Applehead. I appreciate it. You can go to StevieRichardsFitness.com, the 12 and 16-week resistance band training programs. Really, I take such pride and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to bring the most affordable, accessible workout programs out there, scalable all the fitness levels, direct email support with me. This is literally, no pun intended, this is my baby. And I was trying to think of a different word. That was probably not the right one.
Can your baby stay with me for a year? Can your baby come over here? And I'll dress it in nothing but ProWrestlingTees.com/BenHamin shirts. Nothing but that, the best shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com/BenHamin.
So you can, because of the program now that I can afford full shirts, not half shirts and Daisy Duke short. I get full length shorts. So I want to appreciate everybody for investing in the program. If you have any questions, you can always email me, StevieRichardsFitness@gmail.com. Follow me at Twitter at BWOStevie and also at Stevie Richards on Instagram. I want to tell Razor Fist there was a couple of years, no one knows this, that the right to censor might have actually been in the Royal Rumble and it fell through.
Oh, that's a shame. I got the friend getting beaten up. Nobody's going to know what we're talking about because we talked about it before we went on air, but I get to meet Godfather and Bull Buchanan out of it. And Godfather, between you and me, puts on just a little too much patchouli. I'm just saying. Just a little too much of the splash.
Now, Razor, where can not like you need my help, but where can everybody find you, Razor? Because you're all over the place, bro. You got an unbelievable following. No surprise why, but tell people where they could find you, bro.
Well, pretty much the nexus of the Razor Force is Twitter.com/RazorFist with a 0. Simple as that. Very, very simple to remember. From there, you get a link to the YouTube. You can get a link to my inane ramblings. You can get preemptively pissed off at me, so you can set up the eventual dethroning narrative that will lead you to become one of my most ardent haters. So Godspeed.
Yeah, and Jeff, tell them about you, bro. Go ahead, Lumpy.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLane22, and of course, everything I do with Vince at russosbrand.com. All of our shows, you get links to our YouTube, all our free stuff on iTunes. Just go to russosbrand.com. You can see everything we do.
And that is it, everybody. I want to thank, Stevie and Ben and Razor and Jeff. I thought this was incredible. It was everything I expected and more. Guys, check these guys out. This is entertainment, man. This is real entertainment. These are, these are interesting people. These are honest people with opinions. This is the real deal, bro. You can follow these guys every single week. For me and the brand, everybody, that is it. Thanks for listening and have a great, great day.